When we decided to make this story take place in the 1960s Chicago, I think that already gave all of us a clear idea of what the city was going to look like. Um, it made the design for the inner city set much easier to complete and make whole. We would shoot in an actual place in Chicago and just do minor touch ups to have it look like it's in the 1960s. I chose darker colors because of the ominous nature of the story, because you never know what's lurking in the shadows. The witch's house was harder to come up with the idea for. Of course, it was going to be made out of candy, but the style of decoration came from real Victorian houses. And I was also inspired by the house from Up because of the childish and trusting nature of the pastel colors. The Gothic architecture combined with the soft colors makes the house a contradiction. It doesn't quite fit in, just like the witch. The weather also changes mid-script, which immediately changes the mood of the set. The dark clouds and gives us the ominous feeling that something is coming. And finally, the thunder cracking sets the mood for the second half of the film, the danger and the chaotic nature of the fight.
As a lighting designer, I drew a lot of inspiration from The Shining with the use of bright fluorescent lights to showcase contrast in colors and overall make the colors more vibrant and more vivid. Since our story is Hansel and Gretel and the overall focus is the gingerbread house, I thought that this lighting approach would be great and with the vast amount of colors used. The first scene we have is it introduces the setting and the characters in an outdoor setting, so I wanted to use more gloomy colors and make it look like a gloomy Chicago day. So I used dark blues and then white lighting as well as yellow to make it seem more daytime. And then the second scene that we have is inside the witch's gingerbread house, so I wanted to use more fluorescent colors to again bring the contrast in with those bright, vivid colors and then the gloomy colors of the children's outfits. And then the next scene we have is the one at the police station. So I wanted to use more gloomy colors since it's going to be setting in the outside of the police station. So it's going to be on a street. So we have a street light hanging up above as well as blue and dim lighting. Yeah.
For my sound design, I wanted to look for music that was reminiscent of a film that had the elements of action and thriller. Because of this, I feel like there will be tense moments of silence followed by sudden suspenseful music playing and slamming doors. I like the idea of having sound come from other places that aren't necessarily the focus of the scene. For example, there are police sirens, dogs barking, and distant thunder that can be heard in the background of the opening scene showing Hansel and Gretel in order to underline their role as the antagonists of our story. By starting the story with these noises, it establishes the ominous nature of the story. In another scene, there are children playing in the background where Hansel and Gretel are trying to act innocent in order to try and convince the witch to give them her house. This method only works in some instances, and although it may appear to be just background noise, it's actually subliminal clues and messages to the audience.
For our twisted fairy tale, I was the costume designer. For my part, I focused on creating the style and look of our three main characters, Hansel, Gretel, and the witch. I brought in research from Google to make sure the characters' outfits were accurate to the time and setting, which is 1960 Chicago. The first design I did was for the witch. I placed her in a classic 1960s dress that is bright orange with flowers patterning it. I did this because the witch is in her 40s, so she's not too old that she's no longer fashionable, but the color and pattern of it isn't exactly trendy. She's considered the oddball of the town, so the bright color makes her stand out against the dull town. Orange is also considered bright and warm and friendly, so that represents the witch's personality. On the other hand, Hansel and Gretel are placed in a steel blue color scheme. They're the trouble of town, so the blue shows how distant and cold they are. The two colors are complementary colors, so they show contrast between the three main characters.